When the doctor told me I had carpal tunnel, I did the investigation on whether or not I should have the surgery. I decided against it. And I went for 20 years, basically just teaching and not playing. And then when I came here to El Paso, I did try to play a hymn, thinking I might be able to play a hymn. But it did hurt so much to put my fingers on the strings, that I really felt I could no longer play, period. I did go to a prayer meeting, not because of that, but I happened to be at one. And I prayed and I said, "Dear God, I can't play anymore. If you want to close the door on this, I understand. I know you'll open another door. And whatever you decide is fine." So I went home, and honestly, every day after that, my hands felt different, because before I couldn't even hold a pitcher and I couldn't wring a dish towel. But little by little, my hands were changing. I could wring a dish towel, I could hold a pitcher of water. So then 2 weeks later, I picked up my violin. I said, maybe I can play. And I could, and it didn't hurt. I didn't play great, but I thought, wow, maybe God has healed me. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it, that God did heal me enough so that I can play for church. That's what I want to do. I want to play for church. In 2019, feeling like a sore throat wouldn't go away, I finally decided I needed to see a doctor. So I went to an ENT, and he said, "Oh, you're fine. You'd be hurting a lot more if you were really sick. Maybe just to be sure, go see the primary care physician." And I was very tentative. The receptionist gave me an appointment that afternoon, which was a shock to me. So I told the doctor when I saw her why I thought maybe I should see her after all, because my temperature was high and my weight was down 7 pounds and my blood pressure was low. And so she looked at me and she did some tests. She couldn't find anything, but she was upset that the ENT I'd seen did not do an endoscopy. So she said, "I highly advise you to go and see another one." So I did. I went, called, made an appointment, but I was shocked again because I got an appointment the very next day. But I saw the ENT and he looked at my throat and he said, "It's so swollen, I can't see anything. I'm going to give you some steroids and come back in 3 weeks." I was so much better in 3 weeks that I thought he was honestly going to tell me, "Go home, you're fine." But he gave me another endoscopy and they said, "Yeah, you've got cancer down there," and he said, "You need to do something about it right away. If you don't, I give you 6 months." So he arranged for me to see an oncologist and a radiation person at Texas Tech, and they acted as if it would be a walk in the park, you know. So 1/3 of the way through, I felt like I was gonna die. It was so painful. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink water. For about 5 days, I was losing 1 pound a day. And finally, it was a Sunday afternoon. I said, "Dear God, I can't go on like this. How am I going to make it through if I'm losing 1 pound a day and I'm only 1/3 of the way through?" I said, I thought you wanted me to do this treatment from helping me find the cancer, but if you don't help me, I can't make it. The next morning, when I woke up, I felt completely different. It was just amazing. And from then on, I made it through the treatment. I survived it. A year later, they took scans and they decided it had metastasized down to my lungs, that I had spots on my lungs that I needed to get more treatment. So they gave me all kinds of chemo, immunotherapy, and I was bedridden for about almost all that entire summer. I finally stopped the treatment because I couldn't take it anymore. And they agreed to let me go to MD Anderson. So I went to MD Anderson, and he said, I think they diagnosed that cancer incorrectly, and that's why those treatments didn't work. But he said, it's a rare cancer. The only way we'll know is if we do a lung biopsy. I scheduled it, flew back to get it. They give you a whole slew of tests. The next morning before I got to the hospital for the biopsy, they called me and they said, we cannot do the biopsy because you just tested asymptomatic positive for COVID. So we can't do it. So they sent me home and they said, come back in 2 weeks. But that was like in late November and Christmas was coming up, and I didn't want to come back in 2 weeks. So I scheduled it for end of January. And I thought, I feel really good now. Why do I want to go and risk having a biopsy that might cause more problems? And they don't seem to be able to do anything anyway. Why go back? So I canceled it. And I know a lot of people think I'm a little crazy, but I'm just not that worried. I'm feeling good. I'm doing a lot of things that I want to do. I'm not worried about dying. And right now, I'm just going to kind of be excited to see what God's going to do.